District of Columbia. Woohoo! We welcome you back to GMA.
There are lessons only failure can teach you. And it is something that I live by, so that when things do not go my way, I always believe that there is something positive that comes out of it. So just use that quote to be able to get you through those moments in which doors do not open for you. Know that if you leave your hand on the doorknob of opportunity, one day it will open for you.
Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back to The Couch. If this is your first time, I am your host, Joy River, and I have a very special guest today. But before I introduce this beautiful person, I want you guys to subscribe to the channel, okay? And not only subscribe to the channel, I need y'all to send this video to 5 people right now. Send it to 5 people. Put it in your church group chat, your parents group chat, your cousins. I want everybody to see this episode because today we are going to be talking about quite a few things that I know for sure will help and change your life for real. Okay. I'm too excited. I'm too excited about today's conversation. We're going to be talking about resilience, strength, overcoming depression, literally having the emotions overtake us, but still pushing through the purpose. Okay. And I know each and every last one of us deal with that, have dealt with it, have probably overcome it. And somebody's probably going through it right now. So this episode is definitely going to be one for the books. Okay. So I am thrilled to have the opportunity to sit with the beautiful Deshauna, y'all. I'm so excited. I've heard your story and I'm ready to get into it. But before we start that, how is your heart today?
My heart feels great. It feels good to be sitting here on the couch with you. I'm very honored to be here. I'm so excited.
Yes. Okay, good. Deshauna, it's an absolute pleasure to be with you today. And this woman has made history, y'all, as the first soldier to win the prestigious title of Miss USA. But however, her path to success was not without any challenges, okay? Your journey from soldier to Miss USA to being a newlywed, to being married, to being the successful entrepreneur is truly inspiring to me. And I want to start at the beginning though. Let's start with you getting into the military.
Yes.
How was that for you? And tell the people who Deshauna really is.
You know, it was very interesting because it's so cool that we're here in Georgia. I was actually born in Georgia.
Oh,
I was born on Fort Benning,
okay,
Georgia.
Is that where Tyler Perry's thing is? No, that's not the one he bought, is it?
No.
Okay.
I think he's somewhere here closer to Atlanta. I think Fort Benning is 2 hours away from here, if I'm not mistaken. But my parents were both military. They both met actually at Fort Benning.
Nice.
My mom was a truck driver. My dad was a drill sergeant. You can imagine how that was.
For sure.
Something else. So we were restationed when I was about 1 year old. We were restationed to Fort Bragg, which is in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Then my dad and my mom divorced, and then we moved to Minnesota. And that's where I spent most of my formative years all the way through high school. And then I moved to Virginia for my senior year in high school, and then went to the Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia for my undergrad. And then spent about 8 years in DC, lived there, and then got married and, moved to St. Louis. And that's kind of been everyone says, where are you from? And I always find that to be such a difficult question because I never know what the answer is because I've moved so much.
Wow.
But my parents being in the military, then my sister and brother joined the military, and then I joined the military. So
You're the youngest?
Middle child.
Middle? Okay,
Yes.
Me too. Come on, middle child.
Oh, we're the most rebellious
We
ones.
are. That's what they say. But I feel like we're the most sensitive. The most,
Right.
We aren't the oldest. We aren't the youngest. So we kind of get both perspectives.
We do. We do.
Sure. Okay. So how did you move from soldier to a Miss USA?
It was very
Into
interesting
pageantry.
experience. So I didn't grow up watching pageants. I had never seen a pageant in my life. The closest I had come to pageantry was the Miss Congeniality movie with Sandra Bullock.
I love that movie.
It's like one of my favorite movies, and she's one of my favorite actresses. That's my only connection that I've ever had to pageantry growing up. So I was living in Virginia, between my freshman and sophomore year at Virginia State University, I was working at Target, a sales position, and a pageant recruiter actually walked up to me and said, "You are beautiful and you look like you could be the next Miss USA." And she must have been pretty persuasive because I ended up competing in a pageant a few months after my conversation with her.
Oh, wow.
So very, very, very nostalgic, but fate style experience, because I did that for about 7 years. I competed every single year, continued to lose every single time. And then I went on to move from Virginia to DC. And then I competed in DC and won DC.
Oh, wow. After 7 times.
After 7 times, yeah.
What made you not give up?
I'm a little stubborn.
Okay.
You know, people say, "Oh, you must have really wanted it." I'm like, I probably wanted not to lose more than I wanted to win, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I think I was more so focused on, I'm not going to let this conquer me, or I'm not going to let this be my story. So winning kind of just became an obsession.
Okay.
And I just kept going. And then once I won DC and went on to compete at Miss USA, everything kind of just worked out perfectly and ended up winning that.
That's amazing. Okay, so how did your experience in the pageant industry shape your perspective on beauty and self-acceptance?
Oh, what's interesting is that I've never had self-esteem issues necessarily. I don't even think I've considered myself to be a person that lacks confidence until I won Miss USA.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's such a weird paradigm, because to think that being considered the most beautiful girl in the country, the most beautiful woman in the country, while also feeling like the ugliest one in the country is a very strange phenomenon. But social media bullying was, everyone knows my year because they know how it was. As soon as I won, the internet unleashed on me. And truly, pageantry is a very traditional and old community. Although people are like, "Oh, you know, pageantry may not be relevant to some people," there is a very large community of people in this country that love pageantry, that have been watching it for decades. So when I came in as a dark-skinned Black woman with a career and a military background, I'm breaking all of those, you know, beauty standards and even the normal career style that these winners usually have. They're normally models, actresses, hosts. So you have someone that's coming in that was working in the government at the time, and somebody that's military, while also being a dark-skinned Black woman. It's one of those situations where I am kind of a martyr in a way. I took a lot of bullets during my time. I was the first dark-skinned Black woman since Kenya Moore, and she won in '93. So unfortunately, it made me have to rebuild myself. It made me have to rebuild my outlook on life and even the person that I see when I look in the mirror. So it was a very strange experience. And personally, I have a love-hate relationship with pageantry right now. A lot of people probably don't. They may not see me posting myself in my sash and crown half as often as I used to. Obviously, it was 8 years ago. But there are so many Miss USAs and pageant title holders that still very much represent the title, and they're still very active in the community. I'm not.
Okay.
And I'm not because of my love-hate experience, where I've met some of my greatest friends while also meeting some of my greatest enemies. I've had some of my greatest experiences while having my worst experiences. So it is a balance of those two feelings, and really my way of not addressing some of the resentment that I feel towards the community is just to stay out of it completely.
You speak about the color of your skin.
Yes.
Being a dark-skinned woman.
Yes.
And I've had my share of the battle between, because I've had dark-skinned friends. And I would say 2 of them stopped being my friend because they felt like I didn't understand the struggle that a dark-skinned woman goes through. And I honestly never in my life thought of a difference in my own life, meaning like when they brought it up, I'd be like, but no, I think you're gorgeous. I don't even see your skin until you just brought that conversation up. Right. So what is it that you would say to dark-skinned women who our friends with light skin women, they're like, but if you go to the club, then they'll let you in. They're not going to let me in for free and this, that, and the other. And I was just like, whoa. You know, I was really caught off guard because I'm a lover of all people. I don't care what your skin looks like, you know. And what would you say to dark-skinned women who are battling with that or might be insecure, like, I can't be a light-skinned girl's friend when we're both Black, beautiful women, you know?
Oh, I love this question because I do think that society-wise, we've been pinned against each other since slavery times. There's always been that dynamic. The one beauty that I've always experienced in life as a dark-skinned woman is that my mom was very light-skinned.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was very, very, very light. And one thing that she did intentionally, I did not realize it until adulthood, is she would constantly tell my sister and me, "You're so beautiful. I love your skin. Oh my gosh, I wish I had your dark skin. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful." And she would just constantly pour love into us growing up. So I never was self-conscious about being dark skinned until pageantry reminded me that I was dark skinned. So I've always never felt that that combativeness between light-skinned women and dark-skinned women. I've never felt that in my life because I never grew up with that in my household. Whereas I know a lot of dark-skinned women, they grew up in households where there might have been favoritism for the lighter-skinned family members. By the grace of God, I did not have that experience. So my challenge is to, one, see everybody the same. I know that it's really being that like all lives matter type statement. That's not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is to judge a person by their character and how they treat you. And, you know, it is one of those situations where if you are feeling as though your lighter toned friends are not recognizing your experience as a dark-skinned Black woman, I think it's okay to have that conversation. And what is it that they're doing that's making you feel like they don't see you in this way or that they don't recognize your struggle? It's almost as if you're having a conversation with someone of a different race or a different religion or a different economic background. Whatever the case may be, everything starts with a conversation. I've never had to have a conversation like this with my lighter-skinned friends. I think everyone's pretty self-aware of the privileges of being lighter toned. While also recognizing that you're still a Black woman. It does not mean you are without struggle. Now, does it mean that society sees us in a different way than they might see you? Yes. And in pageantry, it's very recognized in pageantry because in pageantry, there is an acceptable Black woman. And I don't fall under that umbrella as what's considered the acceptable Black woman. What's considered acceptable is usually the lighter skinned, the 3A hair, not the person that's got the 4C hair and the Afrocentric features, right? So it's one of those things where in pageantry, you're not only dealing with colorism, you're dealing with featureism and texturism. So there is also this shunning of natural hair. And it was one of my goals when I left pageantry to make sure that I kind of break that stigma a little bit. So for my final walk as Miss USA, I went out with my fro.
Nice.
And it was a really great experience. And I did it as a dedication to my mother, who actually passed away during my year as Miss USA. And she always said, "Why don't you wear your natural hair? Why don't you wear your natural hair?" And I always just tell my mom, "Hey, they're not going to crown me with a fro. I'm telling you right now, we're not there yet." But I knew that as a dedication to her, I kind of wanted to go out in a way in which it was most identifying with who I am internally as a Black woman. So I did that as my final walk.
Powerful.
And after that, natural hair, froze, all these things started popping up as a normal within pageantry. And even Zosie, who was Miss Universe 2019 from South Africa, was a dark-skinned woman with a very low cut fro. And I was freaking out. Oh my gosh. It was such a great experience to see that and to see how far pageantry has come in its ability to not only represent women that are diverse, but just to so many socially acceptable things that were not socially acceptable years ago.
Got it. Well, to my dark-skinned sisters, love the skin you're in. We love it. You know, even if society doesn't, love your skin.
Amen.
It's beautiful to me. Like, seriously. And my friend she was from the Ivory Coast of Africa. So it was, I mean, I just thought she was just gorgeous. And I met her modeling, and I was just like, oh, your skin is beautiful. So y'all love the skin you're in, okay?
Amen.
So your mother passed during your
2016
reign. How did that impact you personally and professionally? Like, how was that for you?
Oh, it was horrible. And it might have been my first actual experience with death of a close family member.
Okay.
I had never experienced it before. I've lost, distant cousins and an uncle before then, but prior to, I had never lost someone close to me. So not only am I losing someone that I care about, that's my best friend, I'm also in the spotlight and I'm in front of all these critics that are so focused on being virtually abusive. So I started to do everything I could to prove to them that I'm going to be a great Miss USA. No matter what I'm going through, I'm just going to keep on going to appearances and working and doing everything I can to get you all as a community to like me. And what I realized is that their distaste for me could not be cured, could not be fixed. There was nothing that I could do to get them to care about me, even if in my roughest days, I'm still getting up and I'm doing the work that I've been called to do. And it really made me, and what's interesting about seeing someone suffer, cancer is such a slow death. And when you see somebody that you care about that's very strong and has been the example for you all your life, and you see them in such a vulnerable moment, it really brings to light a different view on what's important and what's not important. And I started realizing that all the things that I would normally get mad, sad, or upset about, it's just, in hindsight, it's never really that serious.
Yeah.
And it changed me as a person. And normally, from the people that have lost parents or people close to them, especially in the way in which that I lost her through this disease, you start to have a deeper appreciation for life and for love and family. So in truth, it's unfortunate to say, but losing my mom actually made me a better person because it humbled me. It made me value the people that I care about more, and it calmed me. I used to be...
That's such a beautiful perspective, because a lot of people just, they stop. They stop their lives when, especially when mom goes.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, people stop, and I just admire your strength and your resilience to push through that, to even just put the crown on your head. And then the way that it changed who you are, calmness and all the beautiful things. A lot of people, I think, that are listening really need to hear that when you face adversity, you can still push to purpose.
Yeah.
You
kind of got to find, and it's so difficult to say, but you really have to find that silver lining. And it's very tough to find that first probably year or two. But as time goes on, it's like my vision changed, my outlook changed. And it's one of the reasons why I transitioned into becoming a motivational speaker, because I wanted to use my story as a way to impact others and just make them see the beauty of life. And it's, oh man, even when I look at politics today, when I look at all these wars and international conflicts going on, I always think to myself, if only we looked at each other as human beings, just had that deeper respect for us as just a species, and just looking at life in general. I wish we understood just how short it is and how we should spend less time focused on very minuscule conflicts. So I'm grateful for the new version of Deshauna that I've become. I wish it could have come under different circumstances, but I'm appreciative of the newfound vision that I have on life. And it's taken years to get there. And obviously you have to work through the grief. You have to work through the anger that comes with loss. Oh, the anger.
Yeah. For sure.
And you have to work through all this like marathon of emotions. But once you get to the end of that journey, everything that you do is to make them proud. So all the work that I do and even the hearts, the kindness that I've taken on, I don't even know if prior to 2016 I would even consider myself to be a kind person. I wouldn't say I was a mean girl, but I was kind of just I was very much did not care about. Oh yeah, thank you. I like that a little.
No
bit.
nonsense. Yeah.
I was way more no nonsense. I didn't care exactly about how people felt about me or about how I made other people feel. And now I'm just focused, and I've always been focused on just being a very good human being and doing the best that I can to be the best version of myself and doing what I can to make her proud.
Wow. Okay. So we know that you're a successful entrepreneur.
Yes.
Tell the people what you do. What business did you build?
So I built a speaking business. I'm a full-time motivational speaker. I've been doing that for about 7 years now. I'm also a content creator, not very good at it. Some people might disagree. I do not think I'm that good at content, but I am also a content creator. A good portion of my income comes from creating content. And then I'm an author. I just got out the military in the summer of 2022. And I'm also a coach. So I'm a speaker's coach as well.
I love that. Okay. So how did you find the courage to rise above all that you've been through and to create a new path for yourself in your life? Like, what was that?
I think after Miss USA, most pageant girls have almost that same experience where you feel very stagnant and you're like, okay, where does life go now? Like, what do I do now? And it's really difficult to put yourself out there. But one thing that I told myself I was going to do is really chase down this speaking thing. So I just started posting. Oftentimes we post, but then we're like, what are people going to think? Is it going to get any likes? Do people even care about what I'm talking about? Are people going to like my brand? Are people going to judge me? And I got myself to a point where I stopped looking at the likes. I stopped looking at the comments, and I really just focused on the messaging and the impact. And I started seeing people DMing me saying, oh my gosh, I loved your speech about this, or I loved, the quote that you put here. It's really changed my life. And even if I get 1 or 2 of those a year, I use that as fuel to keep pushing when things are not going well in the speaking career. And in truth, speaking is very up and down. It's not a consistent industry at all. So it's one of those things where you still have to power through and you have to look for other ways, to bring in money. But I think the courage for me is we call it do it afraid. I don't think I was ever without fear in this journey. I'm always scared of everything. But one thing that I've learned to do is to push through that fear and do it afraid, and to do it when I feel uncomfortable, to do it when I don't necessarily feel for sure about things. I just constantly post. I constantly pitch myself for opportunities. If they say no, they say no. I have a quote that I live by, and it's do not fear failure, but please be terrified of regret, as giving up is the birth of regret. And it's one of my favorite quotes. Is a thing that drives me every time, because we always have a fear of the outcome.
For sure.
Instead of just focusing on the process and the things that we build within that process.
Wow. Well, I'm just glad that you kept going.
Thank you.
Through it all. Seriously. Soldier to Miss USA, to starting your own businesses. And you had a nonprofit too, didn't you?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nonprofit called Service Women's Action Network.
Okay.
And I was hired to be their CEO in December 2019.
Okay.
And I started immediately in January 2020. And I did that for 3.5 years. It was a really great women veterans nonprofit, an awesome staff working under me. But last year, I had to step down in the summer because life just took hold of me. I was writing a book. I was launching a podcast, planning a wedding, which is a whole nother thing.
Yes, for sure.
And I was speaking and content creating, and then I had this nonprofit, and my mental health just dove into the ground. And it's so interesting because it's one of the things that I've said on previous podcasts and episodes that I've been on, that 2023 was my most successful year. Everything that I prayed for happened in 2023. Yet it was my darkest year next to 2016. And it's a very interesting concept to know that everything you prayed for in one period of time becomes the source of your depression. So I had to wrap my head around how to be depressed while also feeling ashamed for being depressed and almost feeling unappreciative of God's favor and these blessings that are raining down on you. So I had to also reckon with that. It's like, how can you be depressed, Deshauna? Like, everything you prayed for is happening right now. And what exactly is going on? But I just realized that there's a such thing as being overwhelmed. You can have all these successes happening to you, but if the plate is too full, it's too full. If your cup is overflowing, it's overflowing. And you have to take some space out to leave room so that you can become mentally and emotionally healthy. So I had to stop with that position. It was a great position, a very fulfilling one. It really tapped on that philanthropic bug that I've always wanted, but it became too much, so I had to take a step down.
Wow. Okay, so a lot of us deal with that,
Right.
Like, especially in a position of leadership, where we do take on a lot, and we 9 times out of 10 pray, like, Lord, give me this. And I myself also went through a season of depression, where I felt like I was doing great at one point, and then everything just switched when everything started coming. Well, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, we need you here, we need you here, we need you. Okay, so what are you doing now? And then you're not doing enough. It was just, I was being pulled in a whole lot of different directions, and that shame and the guilt for that comes with your call and your purpose. Like, I'm grateful, but this is a lot.
Yeah.
And that shame really stops people in their tracks. And then they literally just drop their dreams, drop everything, and go into a cave, like I did for sure for a few months. And I had to realize, like, I'm not alone, number one. A lot of people, successful people, feel this way. And finding that community of people to pull you up and, empower you, strengthen you again, light your fire again, and all the things. So what was that for you? Who helped, or what helped you come out of that depressive state into the light again?
Probably my sisters and my husband. No one else probably knew about it, but those three, they were the ones that, obviously my husband was there, but my sisters were the ones I would call when things got really, really, really dark. And my husband and I came to the agreement that I need to step down from the nonprofit. It was a massive pay cut, unfortunately, but it was very, very, very necessary. So I appreciated him for stepping up financially to be able to cover, this massive pay cut. And I appreciate my sisters for just, talking me off of a bridge sometimes where we could not figure out what exactly the issue was. And that's the one thing about depression. It's not,
yes.
It's a subconscious thing.
It's like this feeling. I get it. Trust me.
It's a feeling, but you can't put your fingers on it. So unfortunately, what I did was I projected. And I projected onto my husband. And I started to feel as though, no, actually, I'm depressed because of you, because, you didn't do the dishes yesterday like I told you to do dishes. So it's like one of those things where you start to realize, okay, I think I'm projecting onto him. And we would have disagreements. And he's like, I feel like you're on 100 over an agreement that should probably be a 10. What's going on? And at the time, in my mind, it's not depression, it's not mental health, it's you. You're not doing things right, you're not doing. And what I just realized is that, oh my gosh, I'm going to drive this man away, because one, he's human, and sometimes the dishes don't get done, the laundry doesn't get done, we forgot to pay this bill yesterday. Those are very small, minuscule things. Yes. But the thing about depression, and I've experienced this in previous relationships from a long time ago, where when you can't put your hands on it, you find something else to put your hands on, to blame and to be the source of your feelings. So I also had to reckon with the fact that I was also being illogical and not being a safety net for him as his wife and as his partner. So it was one of those things where I would say I appreciate my husband, but I'm saying this because I appreciate him accepting the punches, knowing he didn't deserve it.
Oh, wow.
And it was a very, very, very sad moment. But what happened was time went on, clarity and fog cleared up in my brain. And I started to realize, oh my gosh, I can't believe he took all that. All right, let me do a little bit better. But it's one of those things where I jumped dead into therapy, and I've been in therapy for years now, but I took a break and then jumped back into it. So my therapist also provided some clarity as well. But in the moment when you're just irrational, your emotions are all over the place, it's very hard for you to distinguish what's logical and what's not.
Yeah, for sure.
But with time and lots of patience from people around me, I kind of came out of it. But I think what was necessary is I had to take some of that filled up cup and empty it out to give myself some space. And I think that for anybody that's dealing with depression, you should probably look at your plate, see if there are things that can be sacrificed and moved around or outsourced. And that's one of the things that really helped me.
And a lot of people don't, like you said, you took a huge pay cut, and a lot of people can't, do that. And
I'm very privileged in that way. Yeah, so true. It's so true.
Listen. And I think that's beautiful that your husband stepped up. How long have you guys been married?
Just a year.
Oh, so y'all are newlyweds. This is new.
Almost drove him off the first year.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, legally March of last year when we got married, but our wedding was this past December.
Oh, wow. And the Bible says love covers a multitude of things.
Yes, it does.
And you better, okay. So how has that new phase of your life influenced your perspective of love and trust and all those things?
So the first year of marriage is interesting because they always say that the first year is the worst because you're under spiritual attack now that you're under God's covenant officially when you're married. And I never understood that. I always thought to myself, why can't y'all just do the same thing y'all was doing with boyfriend and girlfriend? Why is this an issue? Like, do the same thing you do with boyfriend and girlfriend, you should be fine. It's not the same. It's not the same. It feels different. And the stakes are higher for sure. So we had to deal with that first year. And I think that seeing his commitment made me realize just how good of a decision I made in marrying him, being in a relationship with him, waiting for him years upon years of not choosing to accept, relationships and stuff like that from other people or long-term situations, walking away from bad relationships. I think my outlook at this point is just being grateful of the timing of everything. While also realizing, we're in a very strange dating world right now. It's an interesting era. Yeah. It's such a strange era. So one thing I will say, I have an appreciation of not being in the streets because it's not the place for me. And it's one of those situations where I am reminded that one, good people exist, good men exist. And I've been in such terrible, toxic, abusive relationships over the years that I really waited as long as necessary for this type of relationship. And there were times in which I could have been married or I could have had kids with previous men. And I knew that it would have been a poor decision because I knew that they weren't my person. I went ring shopping with a guy previous to him, and oh my gosh, would that have been a disaster if he had proposed? So there have been relationships and situations I've walked away from because I knew that they weren't the right person. So I always try to tell women, no matter how long it takes, when you know, you'll know.
For sure.
And try not to run them off like I almost ran mine off because they're very rare.
Yeah, and because I know coming out of toxic relationships, it's really hard to detox from those ways. And a lot of women do jump right back into another toxic situation. And then we jump back into another one after that. And then when we get a good one, we're like, now wait, what you about to do? Don't do that. Okay, so no, that's a red flag. Nope, that's a red flag. Nope, don't do that. And so how were you in the beginning, like when you first started dating? Were those traits or things still going through your mind? Like you still I don't know if this is it. Or did you just know off rip? Like this is my husband. Like how was that for you?
I actually knew, I think internally that he was my person, but I had been fooled and bamboozled so many times that I just didn't trust my heart to actually know and distinguish what's good and what's bad. So everything he would do would be a red flag for me, even if it wasn't really a red flag. So one of the first red flags was that he had never been in a committed relationship before, and that he's 3 years younger than me.
Okay.
So I'm 34 now, so he's 31. But back then I was 31 and he was 28. And I'm like, oh, I'm not dating a man in his 20s. It's not going to happen. So I didn't like his age. I didn't like that he had never been in a committed relationship. That made me feel like he's probably a rolling stone. He's probably in the streets a little too much. And everything just kept saying, nope, it ain't it, it ain't it. And I just realized it was probably just the devil in my ear trying to run me off from what was meant for me. Because what ended up happening is once we got together and really committed ourselves to one another, he's just as old as my grandpa.
Oh, wow.
Spiritually, like internally, he's an old man. He's never, out there in the club, out in the streets. He comes home every night. He is very relaxed and mature. I think it helps because his parents have been married for 30 years and his dad is a psychologist. So they've got a very healthy upbringing and a lot of healthy habits and really good communicators. Like I told you, my dad was a drill sergeant and my mom was in the military. So they're a little,
Lord.
So their communication skills, and they were young when they had me. So they did not teach me the right the communication skills that we didn't have it together. And we also might have had a little bit of anger issues coming up. I got a little bit of anger issues. So I've had to break a lot of generational trends with him. One, by being in therapy, learning the best way to communicate, learn how to control my emotions. These are things I was never taught, nor did I ever see.
Yeah.
Nor did I really even understand what partnership truly looked like because my parents broke up so young and I never really saw a healthy marriage. So I'm learning so much from him in this time period, in this marriage, and I'm grateful for that. And it's one of those things where if I had thought to myself, I need to find a husband I can learn from. If I really thought to myself like that, is this someone that I can learn from and someone that I can see as a father of my children? If I had really thought like that, I wouldn't have ended up in any of the relationships I had been before him. So,
girl, none of us, child. I mean, real toxic situations, okay? This will be a 4-hour episode if I talked about mine. I'm telling you. But this should definitely encourage the women that are out there and the men that are out there. Your person's there no matter what your upbringing was, no matter what you weren't taught. You can learn those things, and your person will love you through your growth, your expansion. They will be there to cover you. And I think that is beautiful that you found that. And looking at her ring,
Oh, he did your job.
he did real good.
He did so good, y'all. So I called my friend.
And he's younger. That's dope.
Yeah.
Because they do be for the streets. Them young, they be for the streets.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Listen,
the young little 20-year-olds, I would have never thought.
But look, that is beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about your podcast.
Yes.
How did your podcast come up? Like, why did you start that?
So I had a podcast in 2018. It was called School and Life, and I did it with my sister.
Oh, dope.
And it kind of went downhill because she moved to Ghana and was doing all this traveling. And I tried to keep it on myself, but then I got busy with speaking. So I said, okay, I'm gonna have to come back to this. So then I relaunched a podcast called Sour Loss, Sweet Lessons. And I launched that last May. So we're a little over a year from when it first came to fruition. Thank you.
For real.
And for me, it was a passion project, mostly because there have been so many people that have always said to me, hey, I love your speaking content. I would love for there to be something for me to look at beyond what's happening on stage. So that's the reason why I wrote my book, and it's the reason why I launched my podcast. This one in particular, it's self-care, self-love, and self-help. And self-improvement. So it's all like considered a self podcast.
Got it.
All about what I can do to be a better version of myself. And it's been such a beautiful experience. And quite frankly, I'm sure you can relate. It's very therapeutic, right?
For sure.
To talk into the camera and to talk about what's going on in your heart and what you're feeling and connecting with others. So it's been a beautiful experience for me. And I challenge any of you, if you're ever looking for a nice self-help type podcast, to check it out. It's on all platforms, but it's a really, really, really good podcast.
So the name, Sour
Lost, Sweet
Lessons. Tell us why you named it that. I'm
So-
interested.
I tried to put some contrast within the name because I wanted to represent my lessons, but knowing that even though it's kind of like Sour Patch Kids where you
Got
talk
it.
about, the sweet and sour side of a person. There have been so many rough experiences in my life, but I do think that there's always a positive outcome that's come out of it. So I wanted to make it about loss, but learning at the same time.
That's fire.
And that's how, I came with the name.
Okay. Your ability to turn pain into purpose is amazing to me.
you.
You've been through quite a bit, and even just sitting here, your light is bright.
Thank
You know what I'm
you.
saying? So I just commend you on that. And I know that your story is going to help a ton of people. And I know you have a book. I have 2.
2 copies.
So tell us about this book so people can go get it, and tell them how they can find it.
Sure. So the book is
Oh,
called.
and they got, and we can write in it too.
Yes. It's a reflections section on the back of each chapter
Yes.
because I'm a book reader. So I like to go through and take notes and stuff. And usually books don't have a section for you to take notes. So because I self-published, I could kind of go through and do my own little creative twist to it. But it's called Pretty Ugly Lessons. I stole this name from Drake.
Okay.
Because he had a lyric and it said, "Pretty taught me ugly lessons." I forgot what song it was in. I should have thought about it before I came on here, but
It's all
it was
good.
Pretty taught me ugly lessons. So I said, oh my God, I love Pretty Ugly Lessons. So it goes through my top 13 life lessons. And at the end of each story, I go through and I talk about the strategies for anybody that might be experiencing it, the things that I've learned, and what takeaways they can use to be able to better improve their situation. So you can find it on Amazon. It is an Amazon Prime book. So if you order it, you can usually get it within 3 days. And it's just a great book. It's very personal. I have a lot of very vulnerable conversations in it, but it is a great book. And it's actually, this being my first one, is dedicated to my late mother. So I have, the very beginning to say a few things to her. And it's a really awesome read.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we wrap up, what message would you like to share with the listeners who might be facing their own challenges and seeking a little advice on how to keep going, just so you can leave them with something that they can chew on?
Sure. I love this. So with my podcast being called Sour Loss, Sweet Lessons, and my book being called Pretty Ugly Lessons, I think I want to leave you all with one of my favorite quotes, which is, "There are lessons only failure can teach you." And it is something that I live by, so that when things do not go my way, I always believe that there is something positive that comes out of it. So just use that quote to be able to get you through those moments in which doors do not open for you. Know that if you leave your hand on the doorknob of opportunity, one day it will open for you. So there are lessons only failure can teach you.
That's dope. That's lovely. And I want to say something to you guys as well. This whole episode has taught me, and hopefully it's taught you, that you can literally overcome anything if you have the mind to do so, the spirit to do so. And it's okay to take some downtime. It's okay to take things off your plate. Don't feel the shame and the guilt, because shame and guilt are like 2 evil twins that will stop you from pursuing your purpose, stop you from the things that God really wants for you. It's important to push past. Take a break, but get back up and do it again. Breathe, but get back in the game because there's so many things that life has to offer, and that guilt and shame will stop you from receiving the fruit of that life has for you. So I really want to thank you for pushing us to push past what we could experience that could knock us out, and just keep going. So we can wear our crowns.
Yes, honey, always.
You know what I'm saying? So I really, really appreciate you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
For real. So y'all already know what it is. No matter what you do, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, there's always room for you right here on the couch. Till next time, peace.